Okay.
Good.
Perfect.
All right. What is up, everybody? We are trimming the fat. As you can see, our buddy Adam can't be here today. But we reached out to David Packer and he decided to come on and grace us with his presence. I am the host of Luke Loses Podcast. I talk about my journey losing weight and the mental struggles that I deal with in the process. So, Corey?
Yep, I'm Corey. I have a lot going on. One of them is Life is Reality is one of my YouTube channels. I also manage a couple small businesses as well as another YouTube channel, and just kind of the all around I keep busy with everything kind of guy. So with that, I'd like to thank David for taking the time to joining us and gracing us with his presence. David, tell us where we can find you at, buddy.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, guys. So I am mostly on YouTube under just David Packer, and then on Instagram as Real David Packer. And I just try to document my trying to lose 300 pounds and the struggles and the successes.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you guys haven't watched his videos, I'm going to link it again down below. I that's my Sunday activity as one thing that I like to do now is I really enjoy the quality of his videos and stuff. They're pretty good.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
yep, good stuff. So today we're just going to talk a little bit and kind of go with some things. Luke had a couple of ideas what we were going to talk about. Adam was actually pretty excited to join in on, but he couldn't make it. So we're going to hold that off. So we're just going off the cuff here a little bit. Luke, you did a podcast here. What was it, 2 weeks ago now on goal setting?
It was yeah, something like that, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine, lifelong buddy, Mark Lapham. He came on and he's got the master resilience training, and we just talked about the one section of it with goal setting. And uh, his one of his things was he thinks that most people goal set improper. So it was cool that he broke it down and explained to me the a healthier way to goal set. So I've actually got a little flyer here. I'll post in the Trimming the Fat group, um, and I'll try my best to talk about it.
Awesome. Now, this is the 7-step thing that you sent me as well as what you're going to post later. Well,
Yep.
I'm just going to go off the steps here so people kind of know, like step 1, define your goal. Step 2, know where you are right now. That's a bigger step than what I think most people are willing to admit. Step 3, decide what you need to develop. Step 4, make a plan for steady improvement. Step 5, pursue regular action. Step 6, commit yourself completely. I don't know if I can do that. That's a tough one there. Step 7, continually monitor your progress. So go all big brother on yourself.
Yeah, and then when you're done with 7, you go back to 1, and then you can like refine it and keep going and get it pinpointed in.
That's great stuff. Oh, I just put a frowny face on that for some reason because I was trying to share it to David if I could. See if I can change that.
I really like that because I think, like you said, a lot of people don't recognize what goes into goal setting. And I was just learning about it a little bit more actually in the last couple of weeks too. And I think that one of the things I learned was that a lot of people are scared to set goals because now you have an option to fail now that you have a goal. So it can be a little scary or daunting. And that's why that step, I think it was 2 of knowing where you are right now, can help you set appropriate goals, not
Yeah.
something that's going to be too scary.
Well, and I think, the reason I said something on that step 2, you're right. Knowing where you are right now is, I think, no matter where you're at, if you're struggling with something, I think we all automatically have a bit of denial going on, of it's not really that bad, or I only drink a half a fifth of whiskey a night, so I don't have a problem. It's all good. Little things like that. And I think if you put things in a perspective of reality of, like one of those little timers, and it's one that I really hate, that tells you how long you've been sitting. I don't know if you guys have seen these or not, or you can get an app on your phone half the time that if it sits still, your phone buzzes after like 15 minutes. Well, it's not too awful long that I'm resetting that to buzz at me in 30 minutes. And then it's like, no, you shut up and you don't talk for at least an hour straight. Okay. I got things to do here. But you get into doing something on the computer or whatever, whether it's Facebooking or, editing photos, it doesn't take long, click off an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of just sitting completely still, basically. And gee, I don't know why I'm so fat. Yeah, I need to be a little real with myself.
Mhm.
Yeah, and another thing that he was talking about was that a lot of times people take off too much of a bite in their goal or not enough, right? So one of my goals is to run a 5K eventually. I don't know why. I would love to be able to run. And like we went through and talked about what I need to do to achieve that goal. What are some of the things that I need to work on? Like his example was if you want to, do a triathlon or whatever, and you don't know how to swim, you need to figure that out. You know what I mean? So with that, the setup process that we're going to post, it really makes it to where it would be hard not to reach your goal. If you follow it along and you know realistic goals, like I can't say that I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 3 months, because I mean it is possible in a very unhealthy way, but it's not a realistic goal. So yeah, I really enjoyed talking to him. Him and I talked for I think an hour, and like I said, we only went over one part of the resilience training that he deals with. And if you get a chance, check out the master resilience training. I don't know if it's available to civilians, but it started as a thing for athletes, and then the military adapted it and was like, this would be really good for soldiers. So they took it, they had people come in and make it for that. And him and I were talking, and like I said, I've known him almost my whole life. Like he's my oldest friend. And he was telling me like, this and this go directly with weight loss. So it's pretty awesome how all that stuff, and even the goal settings, like you don't have to do that for weight loss, because it could be your goal in everyday life. You can go off of that path right there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the
I'm
goal
Googling it.
setting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying I was Googling it, so don't mind me looking down and everything. I'm on it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. What you're talking about. That does sound interesting. Because I do think that goal setting, it really it takes taking an honest, hard look at yourself, some introspection. So that alone is pretty difficult in nowadays where we're always being pulled away from different distractions and devices and all that. And so to take an honest, hard look at yourself, it can be a little bit scary. But that definitely, I like how he broke down those steps there.
Yeah. So I know, David, you said that your one of your goals is to lose, you said 300 pounds,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? So, what other kind of goals do you have? Like even, um, you know, small goals, big goals. What are some things that you are looking forward to reaching?
Yeah, well, one of my, I guess, small goals is right now I wear 6XL uh, shirts. So I would love to get down into like the 5 or 4XL here. It's kind of crazy. I've lost already nearly 60 pounds, but I still haven't gone down a shirt size yet. So maybe hopefully it'll come here soon. But yeah, that would be like a smaller goal. Um, I think another smaller goal I have is to just do something active 3 times a week. That was one of the goals I added, because my first goal when I started was, okay, I'm going to have 2,000 calories a day. And that was my only goal. So now that I've kind of mastered that, I've been adding other goals. And one is, yeah, to do something active 3 times a week, which is very attainable because, I got a dog, I got kids. So it's easy to go to the park or take the dog for a walk.
Awesome.
Mhm.
What about you, Corey? What are some of your goals that you
Oh
are,
man,
are
you got to be tough with me. No, I have a goal, and my excuse keeps me from one of those goals. Is I want to be exercising more. And when you said something about biting off more than you chew, that's kind of a double-edged sword, because I just built out my entire gym in my basement and stuff, and I haven't been using it much because every time I do, my knee just is killing me. So one of my goals is to get to a point to where I can, exercise without my knee killing me, which, hopefully that'll be with some weight reduction. But in a sense, I use that as an excuse not to go to work out in the gym because, well, it's going to hurt my knee, because I automatically focus on more functional and, building my foundation and stuff. So with that is, getting those legs and getting everything corrected and stuff. Part of my knee joint pain is, well, one, they're ruined, but two, also muscle stability and, transference of weight off of the joints. Um, is one of the things. And so I automatically, whenever I start working out, I automatically go to that because I identify it as that is a serious weakness of mine, which causes the pain. But then I use this circular rotation of an excuse not to. So,
yeah.
my goal is I need to be working out more.
Mhm.
But as you can see, I just opened up a whole spew of
Yeah.
my own excuse. And I guess now you guys have to be my accountability partners because you know everything about it.
I'm on it.
I have a question about that. I don't mean to completely derail the topic, but I've been watching. So talking about your pain there reminded me of watching some of these motivational, like huge names, and one of them that you're probably familiar with is David Goggins,
Uh-huh.
and he's all about like you know pushing through the pain. But in my mind, I'm always questioning like it almost sounds like it can be taken to an unhealthy point, like because for your knee, maybe it does need to have the rest and the ice and all that, but maybe sometimes it needs to be pushed. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, David Goggins is an excellent example. I'm in the middle of reading his book right now. This is a
It's a
guy
good
who
book.
drove himself so hard and
Mhm.
so much that his body started shutting down and it almost killed him. It's from an
Mhm.
ultra marathoner to things. So yes, mentally he has this amazing ability to push through. And I agree with some of those steps, but there's also a point in time where you have to have a reality check on that as well. So there's, you know, and with a lot of the pain that comes with obesity and joint pain comes from a few different directions. One is the obvious of the extra weight that we've carried on there on our body. So the easiest way to explain it is if you take two sticks and you want them to hold a lot of weight, I'm flipping everyone off. If you take two sticks and you want them to hold a lot of weight, you put them straight onto each other, straight down, that holds a lot of weight. Well, all of our muscle tissue, all of our muscle and our ligaments and our joints and everything are designed to where they never come straight on impact. We're supposed to, like when we step, we're supposed to step on the ball of our foot. If we step on the ball of our foot, then our arch support takes that first shock absorption. And if that heel doesn't strike, then that amount of force skips our ankle joint and goes directly into our calf. I'm not showing you my legs, so hopefully everybody can use their imagination. From your calf, if that knee doesn't come straight out, if there's a bend to it, that weight transfer goes to the quad. Then from the quad to the glute, then absorbs on through the body. Whereas if you heel strike straight down, and anybody can stand up right now and try this, you heel strike straight down, then that heel drives that weight directly through your ankle, directly into your knee, and directly into your hip, causing all of these same problems. So that's one area of, obesity pain where we get is our muscles become I want to use that word atrophied. I know that's excessive and it's not 100% true, but underdeveloped and underworking, where my calf muscle can't support all of that weight. So it goes to the easiest way of resistance of supporting itself, which is going directly point on point. Another thing is our water intake and our nutrition intake and things like that. Is if you eat a lot of acidic foods, if you eat a lot of things that are, you know, aren't good for you, or if you just plain don't drink enough water, have enough vitamin D, simple stuff like that can cause a lot of extra joint pains and things. So I don't even know if I answered your question, David. I think I just kind of, he knew he was opening a book, didn't he?
Yeah. So for me, like the working through the pain, I think one, you have to know your body. You have
Mhm.
to know your limit, because working through the pain and destroying yourself are far on the scale. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
um, like I'm gonna touch back on a little bit what you were talking, Corey, about the excuses, right? So I was goofing off. I can't believe I'm gonna say it. I was standing on my head in the bed. I was like goofing off with the wife. I did a somersault and had my feet on the wall, and my yeah, fully dressed. And
Well, you got to ruin
I
my
was just
imagination. I had a good image
mind was
going.
blown,
Go on.
because I was like, I've never been able to do this, right? So I
Yeah.
can actually stand there, and it was cool. And then the next day, I was like, oh my gosh, I can barely move. My lower back was killing me,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't enough to stop me, right?
Right.
And for a week, I made it enough to stop me, right? So I was telling myself, you don't need to go to the gym. You're in
Mhm.
pain. You don't want to make it worse. But I knew going to the gym and walking on the treadmill or getting on the elliptical or getting on the bicycle wasn't going to damage my back.
Right.
But I could have worked through that pain. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
So I guess,
And I know where I was at, it wouldn't damage me, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Like I was just making excuses, and I took the easy way out.
so back to your question on working through the pain. I think for the average person is we do need to toughen up and we do need to go through the pain. We need to, you know, grit down and bear it. I think there is a reality to that. I think there are very few people in the world that can get to the mental state of David Goggins on pushing through to the point of massive internal failure, organ failure kind of a state. That takes a lot. I think that we can learn a lot though, in that we are tougher than what we think. We become a very soft society. We become very complacent in things, and mental acuity and mental, fortitude are a couple of those areas where I think everybody can gain a little bit at. We always second guess ourselves anymore, or we look directly to Google for the answer versus, 30 years ago, you didn't have Google. You went and you figured out the answer. It wasn't, hey, is me doing, squats this way going to hurt? Only one way to find out.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yep, that hurt. Does it hurt in a good way? Does it hurt in a bad way? So I think pushing through that pain is a necessity for us, especially in every experience that I've had in obesity, even the pain that I have right now. I can't let it stop me 100%. This week we're going back down to the Ozarks and we're going to go hiking and stuff like that. Am I going to feel it for a week afterwards? Oh yeah, I'm going to feel every minute of it, but I'm not giving up that memory. I'm going to work through that pain. I'm going to, you know, not complain about it. I'm going to drink a whole crap ton of water. I'm going to, try to do what I can and go. And no two things. No, my wife's telling me two things. So, but yeah. So back to you, David.
No, I think those are two really good points. I love that. So you got to know yourself and know your limits. And then number two, you need to know that you're probably capable of more than you might think. That the human body is very resilient. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's stories of people lifting cars off of, somebody. So I
Mhm.
mean, you're definitely able to go further than you think. Like with that, one thing I really love, I heard that your brain will give out before your body does. So like
Mhm.
your brain will stop you before you can reach that goal or reach that limit. So usually, I mean, it's usually way before that limit too.
Mhm.
Right. Well, one good example is as a big guy, grab a hold of a barbell, a nice knurled one that's hanging on the squat rack high enough to where you can hold on to it until you lose grip. And I know with all of our weight, we're heavy enough to actually start tearing your skin. You'll let go before your skin tears 9 times out of 10, even though realistically you have the ability to hold on until that skin tears. That's kind of that point of being able to work through that point. People like David Goggins, or the only person like David Goggins, he'll hold on to that until his skin tears and keeps holding on. He's
Sure.
not giving up. The man did how many like pull-ups in a day? Like 4,000, 6,000, something like that. I mean, he's a special individual.
Yeah, and if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
That's one I got recommended to me a couple of years ago, and I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Like it just amazing story.
David, have you read it yet or just considering it?
No, I haven't read it yet. I'll have to check that out. I've only seen him on like I think he did a pretty long Joe Rogan podcast interview.
Mhm.
So I've
Yep.
seen that, but I haven't read the book. I would love to read that. Yeah.
It shows a lot, and like I said, I've only been reading through it. I haven't got all the way through it and stuff, but he starts with the foundation. It's an interesting story. I'll tell you that. It starts out he grew up in a rough life, and I'd like to say I couldn't relate to anything that he grew up in, but you know he grew up rough. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. So
David, on your YouTube, I was checking it out. I actually reached out to you a couple weeks ago. I seen you did that plocking challenge where
Mhm.
you walked and picked up garbage. I think that's awesome. I did it with my kid, and we had a blast doing it. So, for those of you that don't know, plocking, where'd it come from? It was
So apparently, well,
s-
yeah, it was a trend in Sweden, I think it was, where they have the words plocka up or something like that, where it's to pick up.
mhm.
And so, yeah, that started plogging, where you pick it up while you're jogging, or plocking while you pick up trash when you're walking. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome, and I'm trying to bring it back. Like you
Yeah.
said, it was a couple of years ago. Um, and I've even noticed when I'm driving around, I'll see a bunch of trash on the road, and I'm like, all right, so maybe next weekend I can start here. And it feels good to be able to do that. And like you said, you're getting a little bit of cardio and you're moving,
Mhm.
and that's wonderful.
Yeah, and
I
then I
think
drive by. I
I
like to
think
drive
that
by where I picked and see kind of, oh wow, that looks good over there.
Yeah.
right? I think that kind of goes back to some of that mortal. Wow, that's a not right. That mental fortitude or that mental, pushing through things. I think that's a great way to tie that in. Of I think you said something, David, that you got into it to where you were just walking and doing something, and it didn't really seem like exercise at that point in time. You were doing another task.
Mhm. Yeah, you definitely, I would put on a podcast when I was doing it and just kind of zone out and do the work. And it was actually very enjoyable to get out. The weather is in Arizona right now, here in Phoenix, it's perfect. And so it was an enjoyable thing. And like you were saying there, look, you could do it with your family. That's something I've yet to do that I want to do with my kids because I think kids would also really enjoy it. And probably the coolest thing is that after you've done it, you just kind of like feel good. It's like when I don't know if you guys ever had that. I was in like Boy Scouts and we go like paint somebody's house or something like that, and just afterwards you feel pretty good. That's the
Yeah.
same thing with this. You just kind of feel good inside afterwards.
And I think that's a really good point, or at least I want to try to point out, is that sometimes to push through that mental, you know, pushing through that pain or whatever, getting to that mental state, is to by distracting yourself doing something else. That goal is still within that parameter. If my goal is to walk more, well, I'm not going to go out and walk. I'm going to go do this task of plucking, and I'm going to go pick up things, and I'm going to do that, which in turn kind of may have to use a little trickery on ourselves to be moving and doing that, to where we aren't stuck on it. I'm not, going out for a walk. I'm going to go pick up some trash, and no matter what I do, I have a goal achieved, and then throw a podcast on, and hopefully maybe in the next thing I realize is I'm on my third podcast and I've been out here for 2.5 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
especially.
I'm going to touch on two things real quick. The first one, how dare you bring up the good weather that you're having? Like, I'm in Michigan, my heat's still on, and it was snowing today. So don't do that.
Yeah, okay.
And this the second thing is, I think I pushed myself a lot harder, because like I'd be like, all right, well, I can stop now, and then I'd see more garbage up the way.
Mhm.
So then I'd walk a little bit further and then pick that up. And then when I'm there, I'm like, oh man, look at all this garbage. So then we'd pick that up. So it felt really good to do it, and like you said, driving by, like I take that route to go out to my mother's, and there's like 3 routes I can take, and I take that one more now, just to,
Mhm.
like, hey, and when I've got the kid with me, I'm like, hey, we clean that up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's definitely, it is an awesome feeling.
And I think if you're gonna like, if you know yourself and you know, hey, I like to watch this show once a week, or I like to watch this podcast, if you're gonna do that anyways, why not just do something that benefits others as well and yourself while you're doing that show or podcast?
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, it's reminds me of a story that I don't know completely anymore, but the moral of it is somebody wanted to have good deeds done onto them, or they wanted to, have a difference made in their life, where they were directed to go help others then. And by going out and helping other people and being the person delivering the good deeds, or being the person delivering the relief of whatever it is in their life, turned around and it, you know, kind of gave it back to them in the same way, just by going out and doing it. I know that doesn't make anywhere near as clear a sense of the story that I heard it at, and I'm sorry, but I think it kind of relates in the same way that, you know, we all need to be doing more exercise. We all need to be, involved more with our communities. We need to be involved more with reality of life. I mean, somebody even named a YouTube channel off of it, just because of that simple fact that we become so detached on everything, that sometimes just going out in the park and doing your part, well, it's not even necessarily your part in society anymore, that we hire somebody and pay our taxes for somebody to clean that park. By going out and doing part of that good deed benefits us in more than just one way. And I think we can all learn to do that more.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I had something I was going to touch on, but it went out. I lost it.
I'm sorry, I stole your thunder.
uh, yeah, no, you're good. Um, well, let's talk about juicing. So,
Mhm.
David, I seen that you did some juicing this recently. So I think today's video was it. Did it come out today?
Yeah, today's video is about juicing, and it's based on that documentary that came out on April 1st. It'll have been, so in just a couple days, it'll have been 11 years since that documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, came out. And it's up on YouTube. I just found it for free. So if you haven't seen it, it's right there. Maybe that's what you listen to while you do the plucking. But I guess it'd be hard to watch it though. But it's basically where this gentleman, Joe Cross, he did a diet of juice only for 60 days. And he lost something like, I can't remember exactly, 85 pounds or something. got off of all of his medication. And I just wanted to kind of do a mini version of that. So I did 3 days of only juice on my YouTube video that I posted today. And luckily I had a juicer. I got one from a Goodwill store way many years back, and I just had it used it once and put it away and never used it. But I busted that out, and I was trying different recipes and did that for 3 days. And I mean, it was really hard. It was something that it was I was at the last day, I was like, oh, I just want to eat something normal. But I did end up losing 11 pounds throughout the 3 days, which is probably, like I say in my video, probably like too much. That's probably for 3 days, that's too quick. And that's one of the critiques of the juicing documentary that I've seen online is they say, if you're juicing fruits, especially, you're going to end up with a lot of sugars. And this diet sometimes can lead to increased loss of water weight if you're not, making sure you're taking a lot of water. So I'm assuming that some of the significant amount of that 11 was water weight, but it was still, like I say at the end, my conclusion is that it was a good mental exercise in not having to chomp on my food. But I could do things like this in my weight loss. I can fast. I can have, doesn't have to be a hot meal even. I could have a salad or piece of fruit or something that it just, there's different ways of consuming my meals, and it kind of breaks things up mentally.
Yep. I actually started a restaurant off of juicing.
Oh, okay.
One of my times when I was losing a lot of weight, I'd started juicing and quickly found out that it's a lot of work to juice that much, but it's not that much work to juice an extra juice that I could sell for $10. And I, started selling juice. People were seeing results in my life and stuff like that, and started selling juice. Before work, every morning, me and my wife would juice, like 40, 50 pounds of produce every morning. And I'd take some and deliver it on my way to work, and I'd go to work and I'd deliver a little bit more. And my wife would make some of the day to deliver afternoon or after work and stuff. And that actually founded our restaurant. We had a health food farm to plate centric kind of restaurant that we'd started. And I didn't get all the same benefits of Joe Cross. I was looking for that one time where he said in his documentary that he didn't film it and he wished he did, where he had, like, I can't remember how this whole ball of slime came out of him, but whichever way it did sounded really disgusting, but he went through this cleansing stage that was really dramatic. And I was always hoping that I could get that, because I never felt, I didn't feel bad, don't get me wrong, but I never felt that miraculous step of just, wow, the world is great. But juicing is an excellent way to get certain nutrients that you need in easier than others. You throw in 2 pounds of kale into something, yes, you will have extra sugars and stuff like that. Luke and I were talking about a little earlier, but you throw 2 pounds of kale in with, some apple juice or some carrots and some other things like that, and you have that nutrients that you wouldn't necessarily have. I've learned that, I have to have fiber. That's just how my body works on every level. And we can talk about that if you guys want to too. But and juicing definitely has points. And I know, Luke, you're wanting to do like a 3-day cleanse or something like that. I say we video as much of that and we just use an experiment and put it on.
Guinea pig. Yeah, actually, I thought about doing it. I wanted to document every meal, give my review of it. But a couple weeks ago, I said in one of my episodes of the podcast that I wanted to go to a juice store and get the stuff to do the cleanse.
Mhm.
But the juice store around here is only open like 2 days a week, and it's like four hours a day. So it's so hard to get in there. I'm just gonna have to order it online. But they do a pack where it's like it's called like a small 1-day cleanse or a whole cleanse. a small 2-day, small 3-day, so on and so forth. So yeah, I really want to try it just for the cleanse aspect. I've read a lot of things where what kind of stuff it could get rid of in your body, and I think that would be super beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Now
definitely
I don't know
worth
if I want to do
trying.
it.
No, it's fine. You can do it. I'm just thinking in the back of my head that, to actually cleanse and get probably one of the most efficient cleansings, one isn't a short-term kind of thing, and two, it's a complete shift of your microbiome. And
Yeah.
that's the more that I've learned, and that's a totally different topic, totally different direction of what juicing is. So I think I'm going to leave that to the side for right now, unless you guys want to dig into that or not. But juicing has its perks, but it also has the things where you got to limit, because a lot of people think that, well, I just had juice. Your body's convinced that it's had this liquid, so it can kind of fool, like you were talking about briefly there, David, of your water intake. Can kind of give you that sensation of, I've had my liquids, so I don't need any more water, when in reality you should have a little bit more water with that.
Yeah, I can definitely speak for myself that when I personally, and I wasn't super knowledgeable going into doing the juicing. So maybe I was trying really bad recipes, or maybe I should have drink more water or whatever. But for me, it did kind of hurt my stomach a little bit while I was doing it. And then at the end, when I switched back to regular food, even though I went fairly light, like eggs and turkey bacon, things like that, it like hurt my stomach when I switched back to normal. So, but I don't know. I think overall, I'm happy that I did it. Maybe it'll kind of kickstart some weight loss. I just don't know yet because I just finished up with it. But I what I say in my video is now I have that as a tool I can use for my weight loss. So if I want to in the future have that for breakfast or as a snack or something, if I'm hungry, then that's a great option that I have now.
Right, absolutely. And it's nice to be able to add certain things. And like I told Luke ahead of time, that, sometimes just getting certain things in by juice is a lot easier. Like wheatgrass is one of those things where if I could do a shot of wheatgrass every day, I would. We don't have a juice thing next to us, and my wife doesn't like looking at a juicer anymore. So it's one of those things that we'd have to grow it all ourselves and be prepared with it and everything. But it's one of those things where I think if you have that ability, it's definitely has perks to it. There's also the point of, by the time you try to cut all the sugars out, though, you end up with a really hardcore juice that will turn people away from juicing 100%. You can't just go straight spinach juice. You can't just go straight kale juice. Straight spinach juice may kill you. Just so y'all know. I mean, it's actually possible. You can have too much spinach and die. Other cruciferous vegetables you can do fine with, but if you give somebody a straight kale, broccoli, cucumber juice or whatever, that stuff does not taste good to somebody who's not used to it. It is bad. But if you do it all the time, you can work up to it. It's one of those things, if you could have that juice once a day or a juice like that and be okay with it, you pack a whole crap ton of nutrients in there and a liquid rush that you wouldn't get any other way, you know. But I think that having that as a tool, as you said, is a necessity, because if you had that in between, good fiber rich meals, then your body's able to react in a lot better way and process it more thoroughly all the way through.
Awesome.
Wow, speechless. Yes. Goal.
So David, on the juice, do you feel, besides the stomach issues, did you feel good doing it, or was it
Uh,
'cause I'll be honest, I haven't watched the video yet. I started
yeah,
it, and then we did this, and then I was listening to Corey watch it. But
yeah.
um
Well,
yeah, how'd you feel when you did it?
and I was rewatching the documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, And he said the first few days he just was curled up in bed the whole few days. It was very hard. So I think that my experience of only doing it 3 days, although that is kind of a long time, it's not really a long time. So for me, it I didn't feel great on it. I was getting like headaches, and again, that may be partially my fault because I was having like 20 ounces for breakfast and then like 40 ounces for a lunch and dinner because I didn't like the taste. So that's how much I was having. Maybe if I had had more of the juice, then I would have had more calories and I would have feel stronger and not have headaches and all that. So maybe, there's things that I could have done differently. So I don't want to throw it all, like under the bus. But for me, yeah, I felt my energy down. I got headaches. Maybe it's just because it was such a huge switch from my normal day, but it would it wasn't a huge. I didn't feel like I was on cloud nine, like, oh wow, I'm so light now. No, it was not that for me.
Yeah, actually, no, that's normal.
Mhm.
If you switch to an all juice, a couple of things happen. One is you do start detoxifying certain things. Now, whether that detox be from caffeine or detoxing other, you know, things that you have going on. The example I always used with people, because my wife, every time we'd start juicing, would have massive, massive headaches. I mean, it was debilitating migraines. And it comes down to basically, if you watch a dog, when a dog gets sick, what's a dog do? He goes and he lays down. I've seen dogs that were sick that laid for 3 days, just thinking they're going to die. And then after about the third day, they pop up. We have a similar kind of rebuilding ability, but when you start going through a detox of, whatever it is, it could be pesticides in your food, it could be, you know, just your cholesterol is too high, whatever it is, your body can get to the point when it says, hey, I'm taking in this kind of purity of nutrition. I'm going to put that to use. But for me to do so, you got to sit your ass down. This is going to be rough.
Mhm.
And literally can put people straight to bed for 3-4 days. And, it wasn't uncommon. I think one time my wife didn't eat for like 2 days, started juicing for like a week. And then after about a week, it was just like, I can't do anything. And then it was after that, then all of a sudden, oh, hey, I'm feeling a little better. I'm, getting some of that because we hold a lot of sickness within us a lot of times that, when we're overweight, we're unhealthy in a lot more ways than just weight. Weight's just the one physical aspect that we can easily see. So it's easy to point that finger on. It doesn't tell us the condition of our liver. It doesn't tell us the condition of, you know, our gut microbiome. It doesn't tell us the condition of our heart. We can have a lot of stuff going on inside of us that when your body says, hey, I'm seeing this stuff that I can put to use, I can heal myself now. I've stopped taking in this kind of foods or whatever. Let's do this. Down you go. Time to repair some stuff.
Mhm.
So you guys are making it so I really want to do this.
But you can expect a headache. You can expect
Yeah, no,
stomach pains. You can,
so the only thing I really looked into it, I didn't do a whole lot of deep research into it, right? So um I looked at like pros and cons and stuff, and
mhm.
the average stuff things, are popping up. Um but it's really good to know this because I still want to do it, right? Well, one, I want to know if I can do it, like if I'll be able to stick with something like that.
Right.
Um, and yeah, two, I want to know if I can get some beneficial effects from it.
Mhm.
And, the thing is if you've been eating clean for the past, 3, 4, 5 months, you may not miss a beat. Everything may already be, on point. That's the weird thing about sometimes changing some of that stuff so drastically is how much is it an actual drastic change in your natural diet? I mean, if you're naturally just eating salads, once a day and all of your food's really clean and good, going to juice may just be like, I'm missing fiber, you know,
Right.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, David, is there anything that you want to talk about? You got anything that you want to bring up that we can maybe discuss?
Let me think. That's a good question.
Well,
I
I'll say first, you just got 1,000 followers on Instagram, right?
yeah, just got a
So
thousand. Huh?
congrats on that. That's awesome.
Thank
So
you. Yeah,
1,000
I just
people
got a
watching your
thousand.
journey.
Yeah, it's awesome to get the support and get lots of messages. And I've had to learn which messages you reply to and which you don't in your DMs because some of them are like, hi, and then there's like, you look at the person's profile and they have like one picture and they have no followers. And then, or sometimes you click at the picture and they're like wanting to like sell you something. Not that that's bad. I mean, everybody's got to make a living, but so I've had a lot of fun on Instagram, and yeah, the reason I was kind of late for the podcast was I was out in my yard jumping in the pool and kind of thanking everybody for the thousands followers. So it's been fun there. Um, but yeah, what I thought of is I'd love to know what kind of low impact weight or low impact exercises that you all do because I found that I've done like walking. What else have I done? I've done like little resistance band type things in my backyard. But what other low impact exercises do you all do?
Luke, you want to start? I'll let you start.
Yeah, sure. So I go to a gym, right? Like I don't have the room in my, yeah. So, um, I love the elliptical.
Okay.
I'll get on that and I'll do that, up the resistance a little bit, get a good sweat going. I start breathing heavy. Um, but every time I've lost weight over the past 7.5 years now, um, I've always worked on the elliptical and it works, like it's going to help. You're going to lose weight if you use that, if you're, eating right and all that. But, I love it. And I've never been in a whole lot of pain other than, being wore out.
Mhm.
Um, and then the stationary bicycle. I absolutely love that. I actually went and bought a bike 2 years ago, a real bicycle from a pawn shop. And I love doing that. Like that's so much fun. And I'll get up before the sun does and go so I can watch the sunrise on my bike ride when I do it. I haven't done it in like year and a half. Um, and it's gorgeous. Like like I live out in the country, so every sunrise is beautiful out here. So I always recommend get a bicycle. Like if you like nature,
Mhm.
um, yeah. So the elliptical, bicycle, walking, and then we talked a little bit about like battle ropes. I think it was last week or the week before, and if you've never done battle ropes, that is a workout,
Mhm.
and it's not horrible because I mean with the low impact, you're not jumping. Usually both feet are on the ground, doing like the exercises besides the machines, but usually both feet are on the ground. Sometimes it'll be 1 foot on the ground. But yeah, the battle ropes, man, those are killer. And I get a really good workout when I use those.
I'll have
Yep.
to try those because I've been looking for, at my weight, I'm still at, what was I, 483 or something last week. So I'm still trying to find things that I feel safe doing that I'm not gonna hurt myself. So yeah, I'll have to try that.
Right.
I don't have a gym membership, but I'll have to get one. And I used to use the elliptical a lot and I did like it. I've never tried battle ropes though, so I'll have to try that. They look
Yeah,
fun. I like the look of
they're
it.
great. And there's so much you can do with them.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's not just throwing them up and down. You can do different techniques that work different parts of you, and each one is a pain in the ass.
Yep. And working out when you're morbidly obese is a totally different challenge than what most people, even personal trainers, because I remember I went to school to be a personal trainer when I worked with Anytime Fitness and stuff. And I went through NASM, and I realized while going through the curriculum and everything was for a normal person. I mean, granted, they had, ways to start getting the base of where people are at and starting to figure out what a person need and their imbalances and everything. But it was all based on a normal functioning movement of the human body. That's great and all until you put 35 pounds of fat underneath this arm. It no longer moves the same way. You've automatically restricted some of that mobility. So if you're looking for a certain function of, like your shoulders and your movement or your shoulder blades and stuff like that, trying to get somebody to see where they're at in that balanced platform is very challenging. And that's one of the things where, I started making it almost a personal agenda at that point in time to try to figure out, how do I work out? I can read this material, I can see all of this and stuff. And exactly what you were getting at, David, is what exercises, where do you go? And that's a huge question for a lot of people, because you watch a workout video and they're like, do body squats. That's where you can go. Hold on. Whoa. I'm almost a quarter of a ton. If I go halfway down, guess what? I'm going the rest of the way down. We're
Yep.
sitting down now. I mean, there is no stopping. The body in motion stays in motion till it hits the floor. Ask me how I know. Been there, done that. So at when you're at that weight or that restriction, those resistance bands are amazing. They're great workouts. You can do a lot of different functional training with them and getting. I have roses. Thank you, babe. Hand me one. I'm just show everybody. You just popping in here. Oh, I get a whole vase.
I want to take them all apart.
Oh,
Yay.
beautiful.
So anyways, so getting back to the functional training of things, is the resistance bands are great because you can, like a squat, people saying doing body weight squats. I can take a rubber band and I can put my back flat against the wall, support myself, put one leg flat, and just take that band underneath my foot and push directly out and stepping down. Now I can work 100% in the technique where I need to. I no longer have to worry about my foot being in the right plane because my thighs are so big that I can't align that directly up. That's okay that it's out here a little bit. It's not causing any adverse pressure on my hip or on my knee trying to go, left or right to hold for that. Now I can do that motion in the plane where I need to. So that's some of the stuff that I really need to start getting into my channel, is showing those exercises, because that's where so many people have the question. So resistance bands are an excellent place when you're overweight, because you can rethink the idea of, the body weight squat. Well, we aren't doing that. What we're doing is we're reducing that weight and getting that functional form down and working those muscles there. Another thing is suspension training. The TRX bands, as an overweight person, don't get TRX. Okay, I can go into the reasons for that, but something like NOSK, NOSSK, they're two separate trainers. They aren't at one attachment point. So one attachment point being wide causes a problem. We don't fit in the middle for every exercise. When you have two separate trainers, two different attachment points, you can put it in a way that we can work on in more areas. Elliptical is another great one if you have access to it. Bicycling, a good one, unless you're too big to sit on a bike. I've been there and done that, even trying to
Invest
get on the
in a
bike.
seat.
Right, exactly. Invest in a nice wide one. But
Bench.
a row machine. Row machine's another good one. I actually have one on order that my wife may or may not know that I'm buying, but I am buying. It has like a 500-pound weight capacity, and as of last year, they were $1,000. And somewhat portable, or not portable, but you can put them in a corner of a room. Concept 2 is the company that makes them. So not a bad thing, and that's more of a full body workout. It's a challenge, but it's something, as being extremely overweight, you can get more of that stuff in action. Walking is painful for me. I'm at that point where my knee's damaged enough that, for me to walk any extended distance that would start losing weight isn't a good idea for me. However, leaning up against the wall, bending my knees and bending everything, how we talked about earlier on putting all that weight on those muscles, now all of a sudden that at that highest point is like your quads only move so much in a functional normal range. When you look at a squat, you're all the way down here and then up and down and up. Okay, well, that's great having that 90 degrees, but in an actual form of what the human body normally does and walking and stuff, you're only coming to here. So if you're working this section here, being overweight, now granted, trust me, doing a full squat's great, but starting off and only working this section here where you're normally at, leaning against a wall, just doing an air seat, fantastic. If you have access to one of the big, big bouncy balls you sit on, I can't think of what it is called.
Exercise ball.
Yeah, throw that behind your back. Now you add a little bit more instability there, and that'll actually roll with you. A couple little great things to where you can start getting that function going. The exercise balls are great. If you sit on it and bounce on it enough at 1/4 of a ton, you can break some. Just so you know, the cheap Walmart one isn't a best idea, but battle ropes, heavy bag.
Yeah, I was gonna say the punching bag, boxing.
Yeah.
Get some gloves and a bag, and man, that's a great workout. And I mean, you're working your upper body, for the most part. So,
And if you want a generic way of doing it, taking a 1x6, burying it 2 foot into the ground, wrapping some rope around it, and punch that bastard until you pull it out of the ground. It's one of those cheap things, but there's enough give to where you can beat on that thing. And you know what? You may break it, or it may come out of the ground and you dig a new hole and you stamp it back down and you punch at it for a while and, have some fun with it. But it has that little bit of movement and that little bit of play that you aren't going to, be hitting a solid tree. We aren't doing any kung fu movies here. We aren't going to go punch through the bamboo. But
I appreciate that because, like you said, it's something that a lot of people don't realize, that when you are morbidly obese trying to exercise, it's there's a lot of things you can't do. And so it's nice to have some ideas of what I can do. And then I have my goals, and it's something to look forward to when I can get back into the things that I used to love. Like all through high school, I did wrestling and football. I'd love to, get back on a wrestling mat or learn jujitsu or something like that. But these are things that are very far in the future. If I did wrestling and I laid on somebody now, that they're going to hurt a lot. So yeah, I think I'll stay off the mats for now.
Right. But yeah, that's, like I said, when I started losing weight, my, I don't know, 3rd or 4th time of my series crazy yo-yoing, I focused a lot on, exercise and stuff. And that was always a big concern of mine. At that point in time, my knee was bad still then, but it's a challenge. It's something that I really need to get those videos. So David, another thing, you're my accountability partner, that you got to make sure that I get those videos out for people. I'm embarrassed to be in front of the camera, but I also know that I'll sit there and watch an overweight person do an exercise just so I can learn how to do it too. So it's one of those where you hate opening that curtain of, because right now all you see is this isn't that bad. It's all good. You see this head and yeah, it's chubby, but you get all out and, trying to do certain exercises, you'd be like, oh, there the belly came out. Yep, I see it, which I don't know. I shouldn't be that self-conscious about it because, a belly on a girl wearing a bikini is sexy. I can't help it. Your mindset's not right that mine's not sexy. It's in your head.
I want to touch back real quick on you were talking about the things that overweight people can't do, and like the difference in like the gym and whatnot. I had a personal trainer who was like, all right, we're gonna bend over and touch our toes. And I said to her, I was like, the only way I'm gonna touch my toes is if you got a hacksaw somewhere and you chop them off and hand them to me, because there's no way I can get around this gut and grab them toes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things when I was going through the personal training curriculum and stuff, I was like, man, if somebody told me or asked me to do this, that could crush someone, just like bend over and touch your toes, looking at them, realizing how imbalanced they are. You're not starting at a normal position. You aren't starting within a normal realm of things. I understand now that, the certain function you're wanting to see with that particular thing, but like you said, your big belly's in the way. And we get big enough, especially on the upper body, balance becomes a serious thing. It's not what if I'm going to fall over. No, when you put 250 pounds out here, something wants to fall on over. It's just how it works, folks. You can't sit there and be like, do a plank. Let's see how long you can do a plank. I'm sorry, my belly's still on the floor. Do you want that off too? Because, I can lay here and have my arms out and my toes touching and not really holding much up, just kind of
set the
floating.
world record for planking.
Right,
Sit on the
exactly.
belly, yeah.
23 or 32 years. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
job. We did it.
Right.
So we're at an hour right now. Is there anything else either you guys want to bring up before we close her down?
Man, I thought we were just getting into it.
No, like it does feel like it went pretty quick actually. And
I
we
have
touched
one more
we
thing I
touched
thought
a
of
lot
if we
stuff.
want to get into it. If we don't, if we want to wrap up, it's fine.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so this is something that Corey and I were talking about a little bit earlier in our own chat. We were talking about work, and you were talking about a photo shoot and that you had, and that it had some, it was a lot of work for somebody our size. So that's something I've been thinking about for work, because right now I work from home as a claims adjuster, so I'm just sitting at my desk all day. But if I do want to eventually switch up my job, if I'm interviewing some places, there's kind of two aspects that have crossed my mind about going for a job. So number one is, when you interview, do you feel like it's something that employers will look at and, kind of assume, hey, this person's lazy, they look like this, so that they're probably not somebody they want to hire. And then number two, the limiting factor of weight in having options, what's available to you, and as far as selecting a job. So those are just two things that have been on my mind recently.
I
Yeah.
I did a video on this and I'm really harsh on it. And I took quite a bit of flack because I hire people. I'm, in a position to where I manage some things. And even being overweight as an employer, and I just speak clearly, when you look at somebody who's morbidly obese come in and apply for a job, most employers are going to think health risk, they're going to think injury risk, they're going to think productivity through the day. Because when you're hiring a person, you aren't hiring a person, you're hiring to a certain job to be fulfilled. A lot of people want to say, well, I'm a good person, I'm qualified and everything. That's great, but at the end of the day, and it looks, when you cut it down to black and white, most employers don't give a crap about personnel, they give a crap about bottom line. And when you're looking at bottom line and stuff, anyone who is overweight does have it held against them, plain and simple. And I don't like to crush hearts that way or anything, but I think it's a reality that we all need to have. It's just the same as beautiful people make more money. It's a proven fact. The better looking you are, the more potential you have for a solid income. It plays on that scale. So us being down here, it's taken me years and years of creating my own job. My job that I am in right now with the two businesses that I own or manage, I manage one, own the other, but I created them. It's not something that, oh, hey, you're a great pick for this. No, it was finding, I'm here and building that career. So it's taken a lot. So for wanting to go out and interview when you are overweight and knowing you have that limitation ahead of time, that even when you lose 200 pounds and you're feeling great and you got energy and you can work all day long now, that's one of the things where right now, if you ask me to go do something for 8 hours straight, I wouldn't be able to, because I know I'm physically not able to. As an employer, they aren't going to want to hire me because of that. Now, if I lose 150 pounds, I'm still going to be morbidly obese, but I know I'll have that energy to work through that day. when you're going to, depending on what job you're going to, you want to be able to confront those and show those abilities ahead of time of, these are the adversities that I've already overcome. You know, a lot of people say, well, you got to go to college for a career. You know what the bulk of employers think about college, what it is you're willing to go through 4 years of this shit to try to get this kind of a job. You're willing to go through 4 years of things that may never pertain to what you're going to go to. You're willing to say yes, and you're willing to persevere through that and pay for that to have that level of a job. Same thing, whereas us, we have certain life experiences that we've already persevered through, that we're living through, that nobody else can bring to the table. And when you're looking at a job interview and wanting to change a career, you're bringing that game to that. This is what I can go through. This is what I can persevere. This is why I'm better. You automatically have to put that ball in your court, and you have to take lead on that directly. You can't, let it be like, look at them, or let them look at you and create their opinion right away. They've already created that when that door opened. They've already started it. So now it's your turn to be like, no, this is my skill set. This is where I'm at. Are you qualified to actually employ me? That's usually where I start with most people when I go in for a job. The last time I was in an interview is I interviewed the employer. Is, are you qualified? And I took notes. They called me out of the blue, said, hey, I got this problem. I heard you're the guy I need to hire. I took a notepad in there, and the first thing I did before he said anything, what are your 3 biggest problems that you have that you want addressed? I took advantage of the interview process at that point in time to where I was interviewing them to see if they were even qualified to hire me at that point in time. So whenever we're with this, is you got to take your life experiences that you've been able to have, and you bring that to the table with your A game, because you have an experience nobody else can persevere through. I mean, very, very few people can be at 500 pounds and have that mental aptitude to realize, I got to change, and I got to go, and I got to keep going. Not only am I going to go, David, you have this ability to show the world what you're going through in a way that very few people can. Look at your tone. Look at how everybody replies to you, responds to you. And this, man, you're just chill, and you just have this, aura about it that I enjoy watching. Other people enjoy watching. I've heard other people make the comments of it. So you got to find those strong suits, and you're bringing that directly to it. You ready to go get a job?
I love it,
I'm
man.
motivated.
That kind of brings up a follow-up question then, because I did recently have a video Skype interview, and in my head I'm like, okay, she's asking me questions. Do I bring up my weight, or do I just let it not mention it? Or do I say, hey, I just want to throw it out there. I know I'm a big person, I'm obese, but I've lost, X amount of weight this year, working really hard. I'm a hard worker. What do you think? Do you mention that to somebody, or do you just not mention that and kind of, unless they bring it up?
My weight has nothing to do with my ability. There's a book out there called Think and Grow Rich. It was written like in the 1920s or 1930s. It's an older book, but it still applies. And after reading it, the way that it goes on and goes through, it may take you the first chapter to realize what that entire book is over, or it may be the third chapter or whatever. But then all of a sudden you realize you have the ability to develop your world. Plain and simple. If your weight or whatever the situation is, if your disability is a problem enough that you think that you need to tell somebody about, then it presents that problem up front that you have this problem. My weight is not a problem with any of the work I do, because I will find a way around it. If that means that I have to take a leadership role and I'm putting you to work, then that's what I'm doing. I don't care if you own the company. If I have that ability to see that, this job needs filled, this needs done, and I can be in that director position, that I can see it ahead of time before you do in your position, I'm putting you to work on that while I'm doing this other task. I'm multitasking, showing that now you are not paying my wage to get your job done, because I'm doing this, which is worth value to you as well. The company that I work at, the owner is always out doing work. I have a list for him to do just because I keep him directed. I keep things directed. That's one of my strong suits is, putting people to work. I see a problem ahead of time. This is where we go. It also keeps me to where I can stay focused in the realm of where I know I'm most productive and most profitable. So it keeps that looking good too on a business side. So the owner has no problem. Oh, this remedial task, I don't have to pay anybody to do. I can do that. Good. He goes and does it, and it works out pretty fantastic that way. So
Yeah. So
you create it.
every time I've interviewed, I've always brought it up. And it's because I'm insecure about it. I don't want, like, I go into the interview thinking, well, they think I'm lazy. They think, I'm a risk, whatever. So I've talked about this all the time. Like, I project my thoughts onto other people. And so whenever I interview, I'm like, yeah, I'm working on losing the weight. And I'll even say I've lied about it, working out to these employers just so they don't not hire me just because of that. So, um, but like Corey said, your weight and your size isn't, your worth. So if you can provide that worth to them, it doesn't matter. But on the other hand, I do feel, um, you know, they're not supposed to judge. They're not supposed to, say, well, I'm not going to hire you because of this or because of that. But people are human, and like I've talked to my wife about it, saying, if I went in for a job right now, if I was hiring somebody that came in at my size, that is what I would think. I would be thinking that, this person is big. Is he going to be able to handle the job that he's applying for? And that terrifies me that I think like that. But yeah, like Corey said, though, if you're, show your worth, prove your worth. And yeah.
Yep. Because unfortunately, too many people, on an employee standpoint, is workman's comp is expensive, and being overweight, heart attacks are reality. Slipping and falling and having major damage is a reality. It's a risk factor, a risk analysis that, an employer is going to take into effect, especially if they've hired a lot of people or a larger corporation. There's risk analysis that as a hiring position, you're going to be educated on that does hold things against people, plain and simple. It's just a checklist of all kinds of things from education to, credit report. Uh, Companies today will look at your credit report and use that as a determining factor on whether you're getting that job or not. Most people don't realize that that's something. There's a reason why we want your social security number and your date of birth and everything first. We aren't just running your background check. We're running your credit report. We're running, as much history as we can pull before you come into the interview process. I'm looking at your Facebook, I'm looking at your Instagram, and I'm looking back 5, 10, 15 years if I can. I'm looking back as much as I can to see what kind of person you are before I even hire you, because I realize and know that if I can look back 5 years and see the group of friends that you're with and the things that you're doing, those habits are still inherently there. Whether you're doing that now or not, have you gotten married in between? Do you have kids? What's your credit look like now? Are you building it? Is it worse? All these things are accessible if you pay for it. And there's companies you can sign on for $49.95 a year, and I can run your full credit report, your criminal history, and everything. And by the time we're interviewing, I already know who you are. I know quite a bit. So that's where it takes, having a little bit of you own it, is what I tell people. You don't care what my past is. I don't care what you think I look like. I know what I am and I know where I'm going. And you can either be on board and have the privilege of having me in your life because this is the skill set I'm bringing, or the next guy gets to have the privilege. And if you sit around too long, I may just start a business just to be competitive directly against you. And if you want me as a competitor, let's do it.
So like you saying that really I want to say gives me hope, like how like I knew that they look at that stuff, right? But
Mhm.
um I mean, I've never been in the hiring role, but that makes perfect sense. Like who's coming in to interview. It's not just a random, oh, so who's this guy, Um so yeah, I like that answer.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go on, David.
No, I was just going to say that I tried to sign up for the optional life insurance at work, and I sent them my info, and then like a week later, I got the letter back like thanks but no thanks, like hey, we'll call you kind of thing. So I did not get that life
Yeah.
insurance because at my size, they just don't want to take the risk. So it's a numbers game. It's the cold hard facts, and in some cases, the employers will have to look at those facts like you're talking about for workman's comp and things like that. So, but I totally agree with your overall outlook that I think that there's going to be opportunities. If you know your worth, you can go out and find what you're worth.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You got to play to your strong suits, and you got to realize that people are willing to look at that, and you can't let it get you down.
Mhm.
You got to, it's the cruel real world that people always look down and people judge anymore. And it's worse and worse every year. It's, the truth.
Yep.
An employer doesn't have to say, I'm not hiring you because you're fat. They can just say, I'm not hiring you because you're not qualified. Now, just the same as they can't say that they're not hiring you because you're black or you're Hispanic or whatever. You just don't meet the criteria in which we're looking for. Anybody ever hear that one before? It's it's pretty straightforward, simple stuff that, being fat is not something that is able to be discriminated against. I mean, when you look at it in a real world thing, is there is no discrimination against fat people. If you're overweight, you're overweight. Your insurance is higher. Car insurance can be higher if you're overweight because you have a higher risk of having damage on things. Health insurance, like you said, life insurance, oh, forget it. You aren't getting life insurance. Health insurance since Obama, since they can't ask, that's one benefit we have for health insurance there. But as a company, then all your rates go up just to, you know, favor for that. But I'm sure you've ran into a little bit of that, haven't you, David, in your position or
Um, yeah, I don't know as far as health insurance. My company's like several thousand people, so I think they have a pretty flat rate for everybody. But yeah, I've definitely like in my one of my most recent videos, I talked about how that several of the families gotten COVID here recently in my family. And so, we go to the doctor and I went to the urgent care and there's a new lady that I haven't seen there, and so just immediately she's like right on me, like, "Oh, look at your size. Like you're gonna be in trouble here, basically." And so I think that uh, it's definitely something where I've seen where my size immediately has an impression on people, whether it be somebody I've interviewed, somebody I've, colleagues. You see like the little, like, I don't know if you guys notice, I see like the little eye look down at my belly kind of sometimes. And I'm like, oh, I saw that. But that impression that you give people, no matter what, like you said, your weight is not your worth, and I'm definitely kind of growing the confidence that hey, I know who I am, I know where I'm headed, and it's so nice to connect with people in a community that kind of have that same train of thought.
well, and I think realistically, we can go all the way back to where we started on this and on step number two, knowing where you're at. I
Mhm.
think, it's really easy to look at our negatives and things, but I think whenever we take a full assessment of where you're at, is you should take a positive assessment as well. Is you are at somewhere where you're making a choice. You're at somewhere where you're taking a stand. You're at somewhere where you're making an action happen. So I think it's easy that we have this self view of ourselves and we look at all those negatives and we start piling that list, and all of a sudden we're overwhelmed and our progression stops right there, versus starting off and being like, no, I have a value. I have a value so much that, David, you brought this up at one point in time where your family and friends were waiting to support you.
Mhm.
Almost is like, as soon as you open that door, all of a sudden you've seen how other people cared.
Mhm.
We have people in the background that are waiting to support us. We just may not realize it. We're in our own self-pity, our own self-doubt, or our own severe depression, or wherever we're at, we're in this hole or whatever. Sometimes people are just waiting for you to open the door, come out of the closet, and they're there with your pants to put on. It's time to go for a walk. Let's go, buddy.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's one thing I heard a while ago. Somebody say, they said so many people are like wanting to be the helper. Like, hey, let me help you out with that. Let me help you with that. But it's such a different strength to be able to say, I need help with this. And like you said, when you're able to say that to people, they're like, oh gosh, yeah, like I've been wanting to talk to you about that, or like, let me help you out with doing this. So I've had like my family members offer to like film me, like, and it's just, there's a huge support that's there once you open the door, like you said.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
And if there isn't a support in your local area, there's places like here.
Mhm.
Yep.
There's 1,000 different places now where people are willing to help support. I don't even know how many forums there are on Facebook or groups or whatever you call them anymore. I'm showing my age there. Forums, I think that's a thing of the past now. But different avenues. And I know, like you, David, how many times are you willing to sit there and answer a question just because somebody has something similar that you're dealing with?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
every time, yeah.
right, Luke, you're the same way. Adam's the same way. I don't mind taking the time. I mean, that's 100% of the reason why I do this, is because I've went through enough that I have a knowledge that I know is worth a value to someone. I don't ever have to meet you. You just have to hear it once. And you may be
Yep.
listening to this, that we recorded this 3 years ago, and you're hearing it now and be like, oh yeah, I needed that.
Yep.
Great, perfect. You know, so
Mhm.
I think there's definitely a value to it. There's definitely, no matter where you're at in your journey, and if you haven't opened that door yet and you're just, sitting in your own little dark world, it's time to open up. There's some things there. That step's hard and can be a challenge because we isolate ourselves off so much. Some people, are living at home right now and have never stepped out in the past year, and aren't going to because of whatever reasons. you know you got to open the door, and if that's just reaching out to an online group or reaching out to anybody, that there's people here willing to help. We don't know you. You got to let us know who you are. David, your goal that you've talked about is trying to do a non-profit to help people on things, right?
Mhm. Right.
I mean, think about that potential, that if people would just say, I want to be one of those people
Mhm.
right now, that
Yeah.
that can start instantly just by somebody being like, I want to be that person. Can I be person number one?
Mhm.
And it starts, and you use the resources that you have, whether it's your knowledge, whether it's financial or whatever, just being a friend, and you start helping people one at a time.
Mhm. I love it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. That people helping people. And
That's
like,
where.
and that's not like a plug for our group, like there's tons of groups out there. Like the one that I'm in, it's a men's support group. I love that one, but then I'm in another one that's just weight loss motivation, and it's all of them are great. They all benefit and they all help and push us forward and help us reach our goal.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So with that, guys, I think we'll call it an evening. David, thanks for being, the third person on our little tricycle today. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'm going to do my best to try to get everybody's links in. Feel free to let us know any questions that you guys have, anything like that. Check out Luke's podcasts, Luke Loses. There's some links in the description. We'll plug some stuff on Trimming the Fat, both the podcast page and the support group. They're two different things, but we're all still there tied together. And you guys have anything else you want to close on?
No, man. This has been great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks again. We appreciate you.
Mhm.
All right. We'll see you all next week. And if you need anything in between, don't hesitate. We're here. Open that door. It's time to step out.
See you guys.
Bye.